Welcome to More Than Words. This program is part of the Communications Initiative and the Communication and Behavior Change Accelerator. For the next half hour or so, we would like to showcase effective storytelling about water. More Than Words will return every day of World Water Week, and this is where you'll experience artists, authors, poets, storytellers, dancers, and musicians addressing the water issue in various creative and inspiring ways. Earlier this year, the World Water Week Communications Initiative started with a training program for journalists and communicators. The aim was to support and encourage journalists and communicators to raise the importance of water. One of the participants, communicator and storyteller Mukta Dere, makes poetry and art inspired by water.
You are made of water. You are made of me. And right now, you're swimming precariously with the flow in the depths of turbid illusions. Look down to the abyss of your soul, and the mysterious opacity will surprise you. Look around, and the absence of life will stagger you. Because you are made of water, shallow or deep, you are transparent. You are endless and eternal. You are a holder of memories of pain and peace. You make things grow. The soul of this planet, the metaphor of life. Only if you really, truly understand what it is to be made of water, you would perhaps know that you must, right in this moment, dare to go against the flow. You are made of water. You are made of me. The fluvial joy of your sweet realization is serene and comforting, but you sense a gush, a conundrum. For you are looking at the bright blue sky with an envy in your eye, stagnant and pondering whether to swim or to fly. No wonder the blue tempts you, for you are made of water, and water doesn't confine you. It embraces your tides of uncertainty and inspires you to create some ripples of change. And if you want to soar, say no more. But remember, these depths are your home, and no matter how high you fly, water will carry your secrets and hold a mirror for you, so that even when you're flying and you feel lost, you can peep down and find yourself once again swimming in my depths. You are made of water. You are made of me. I am delighted that you chose to fly, but even more so that you like to flow more than ever now. I see you becoming a mirror for the passers-by, for strangers and for friends, a mirror that I once held for you while you were lost. The ingenuity of their praises is a boring proof that your drops of reflection are now the ripples of change, growth, and resilience. You empowered the passers-by to be a mirror for someone else. You have become an archetype of hope. You are made of water, you are made of me. Growth is fluid, shapeless, even silent at times. It does not always gush, it is not always navigable, it is not always seen. I have seen you grow as a being of water, as a lover of fluidity, as a catalyst of life. I have seen you embrace the dangers of my depths, the aqueous uncertainties. I have grown fond of your ability to create your own intuitions and find your own song. I am certain that your ripples of change are now making waves in the universe. They are celebrating your being, my being, our being, and making us heard, discovered, adored, and cherished. You are made of water. You are made of me, and together we are infinite.
The Outlaw Ocean Project is a non-profit journalism organization that produces investigative stories about lawlessness at sea. To reach a broader and more diverse audience, the project also specializes in converting the journalism into other narrative forms such as music. From the Outlaw Ocean Project and the Pulitzer Center, this is how it's done.
My name is Ian Urbina. I've been a journalist for the last 3 decades, most of that time at the New York Times. I'm an investigative reporter, and through my career I've largely focused on human rights, labor, and environmental crimes. And the last 5 years has been largely focused on a series called The Outlaw Ocean, which is about lawlessness at sea around the world. So The Outlaw Ocean is an exploration journalistically, anthropologically, if you will, of this realm. And that realm is the sort of watery expanse that happens to cover 2/3 of the planet. And historically, we've thought of that space as sort of this vacant void, different shades of blue that we fly over. Most of us just fly over it, or we visit on the shores at the beach in the summer. But what I wanted to do with the series was reimagine that space and put a focus on quite especially the people that work out there at sea. There are about 56 million people who work offshore. And I want to just look at the diaspora transient tribe of people that traverse that space, what their life is like, what their language is like, what their experience is like, indeed even what, quite especially, crime looks like, what their rules and etiquette are like. I wanted to, in the realm of crime, really kind of diversify people's understanding of the things that happen, the crazy things, the bad things, the heroic things that happen out there, beyond just the standard, Somali piracy and the BP spill, which are the 2 big references that people tend to have. And that reporting, I'll say, began about 6 years ago, ran for 2 years in the New York Times, and then I took a 2-year leave, and a photographer and I went out for 2 more years to to write a book, and then out of the book came the music project. You know, I've been a fan of hip hop my whole life, and have been, and really moved by what Lin-Manuel Miranda did with Hamilton. I thought he did a great service to rap in the sense that he took rap into a new space. Initially, my thought was, well, I've got this book, it's called The Outlaw Ocean. It's about this realm, you know, this otherworldly place. And it's rich in characters and narrative and tension and kind of thick description, detailed description of a very exotic place. It seems like as a body of intellectual property, it could really work well if handed over to a musician. And they would have lots of space if they're given the trust and freedom to choose things within that universe, within that book, that most move them. So I began talking with electronic artists about this idea of interpreting the book and using sounds from the reporting to make music in their own style. And it clicked. And all of a sudden it was from 3 musicians to 5, from 5 to 50, and now we have over 400 musicians from 90 different countries and from every genre, including now hip hop, but also classical music and electronic. And it just sort of blossomed into this massive, sprawling thing. But it all started with an initial batch of 10 electronic artists, from around the world, Germany and Amsterdam and LA and New York, who thought the idea was neat and they were willing to try. And the music project was an experiment in alternate forms of storytelling, sort of an experiment in translation, where we were taking written stories and translating them into music with help from musicians. It was also an experiment in other ways, in alternate ways of trying to finance and fund this very expensive type of journalism. It was an experiment to see if we could build a model in which we could scale it up to a huge degree and involve musicians from lots of different countries and lots of different genres in a collaborative sort of way, where we were all building off of each other's creativity and momentum and online traffic. So when I pitch the artist, I describe 2 ways in which I'm hoping the musician will connect with the book. A top-down way and a bottom-up way. The top-down way is I want them to engage with the book, read all of it, read some of it, whatever they can and want to do, but engage with it on a top-down sort of emotional way. So, hey, you musician, take a look at this book, find stuff in it that really moves you, grabs you, really focus on the emotion of it all, and then start thinking about what does a song sound like that corresponds with that emotion. To some degree, it's akin to scoring a scene in a movie, right? This is a soundtrack for a book in much the same way that a soundtrack for a movie is meant to provide music that amplifies the emotion of that scene. That's the top-down relationship. The bottom-up relationship is one that is born of this archive of sounds, which essentially took the 5 years of reporting, video footage of the reporting, and looked for really rich sound. Now, the rich sound can either be ambient or it can be prose. So the ambient sounds are things like that have texture, that have beat to them. So think about machine gun fire in Somalia, or chanting Cambodian deckhands on the South China Sea. These are things that have their own rhythm to them, and they're rich, interesting sounds that grab you. You don't have to use any of the ingredients. You can use a lot of them. You can use them and slice them up in ways in which they're no longer even understandable, almost like you would making a new musical instrument. Or you can use them wholesale in the lead into a song, or the exit from a song, or the denouement, the high point of a song. However you want to use them, use these various ingredients and make the music. And so that's what I offer and invite them to do.
So to get into a little bit about why I was excited to be on board with this project, I'd never heard anything like it before. Such a unique idea to merge these live journalism and ambient aspects, and then take that and combine it with artists like myself. Me specifically, I feel like I create very emotive, deep pieces that inspire imagery. So when you put those things together, I get to really use my creativity uninhibited. It's a beautiful relationship where the music gets to speak and the book speaks, and you just get this really complete image. Once I decided to jump on board, of course, I had to pick a chapter that I wanted to do my piece on, my EP. I'm a pretty positive person, so I didn't want anything with like a super sad, deep, ending where it just like, things just didn't quite work out. But as I was scrolling through it, I found my chapter, which is the name for the EP, The Next Frontier. So I went through it and I found it, and it was just about these efforts from the Greenpeace movement. And so I was super, super excited because I felt connected to this. It was like my first opportunity at this sort of musical activism.
It is central to our lives. For the sake of our oceans, our climate.
One of the things with this project I wanted to do was think about getting at a different demographic of people, and also getting at people in general in a different way. And so a lot of folks, my son included, are learning about issues through an alternate way, say, such as comedy, right? Such as on YouTube. Or they're learning about places and people and things through alternate platforms like Spotify, right? Or Pandora, or Amazon Music, or whatever, music platforms. And granted, they're not getting full structured 3,000 word New Yorker stories, but they are getting dabblings of things and places that then send them down a path to learn about what was that rapper or that classical musician referring to and then off they go. I think if journalism of the type that I was doing at the New York Times is going to survive, then we need to really be thinking more about how to get at those very audiences, like my son, and where are they already? Go to their watering holes, don't just try to invite them to our watering hole. Figure out where their watering holes are and bring information to them in the form that they might consume it. If the experiment goes right, then they go off looking for more about that, either in your song or through other means, but now they're curious to know what is that referring to. If you take on the assumption that most people are curious, and a lot of that curiosity is channeled on the internet, and if you lay the breadcrumbs for a short path between the journalism and the other thing that you're giving them, in this case music, if it's not a long path, then most likely they'll follow the breadcrumbs back.
Our next story comes from GIZ Bolivia. The story is an example of local water knowledge, giving a voice to rural female leaders who share their perspectives on water and natural resources management.
Mi nombre es Rosalía Macata Romero, soy ingeniera agrónoma de profesión y pertenezco a ADESA, que es la Asociación de Agrónomas para el Desarrollo de las Zonas Agroecológicas en Tarija. Soy delegada al miembro del Consejo Social de la Cuenca de Guadalquivir y como grupo también de agrónomas, nuestra visión está tendiente a lo que es el fortalecimiento de la agricultura orgánica en todo el departamento de Tarija y también en otros departamentos. La idea de traerlos aquí, justamente en la productora estrella, por decirlo así, de ADESA. Ella ha nacido justamente a la agricultura orgánica con nuestra asociación, porque se ha apropiado de toda la tecnología de lo que es la preparación de bioinsumos, el uso, tanto así que ella ahora ya se ha convertido en promotora. Ella es capaz de llevar esta tecnología que ha aprendido, que lo aplica aquí en su terreno, a otros productores, y donde vaya ella siempre lleva consigo, ¿no? el amor por la tierra, por lo que es el cuidado de la madre tierra.
Yo vengo trabajando desde hace mucho tiempo. A mí me gusta porque es una producción sana, es saludable, mejor dicho, es amigable con el medio ambiente. Exactamente desde el 2005, 2006 he empezado, porque aquí, digamos, era que empezó por lo que me daba miedo del abono. En primer lugar, que usaba mi papá mucho abono químico y el suelo se iba quedando más duro. Mientras más usaba los abonos químicos, el suelo se volvía más duro. Entonces, el próximo año tenían que volver a colocar más. Por eso yo empezaba a cambiar de meta. Dicho, y el ingeniero una vez ha venido aquí a la casa y dice, hagamos abonos orgánicos. Y yo no creía al principio. Les cuento que yo no creía que ese abono con coras y macerados, hervidos y todo lo demás. Y entonces, cuando ya empezó a descomponerse el abono que es de cora, y ya cuando yo tocaba esa tierra así la mano, ya se entraban los dedos, entonces era blando. Entonces yo he dicho, no, eso funciona. Entonces voy a hacer, porque la tierra está gira, tengo que mejorar la tierra, está muerta, no produce ni verduras, aquí no producen nada. Me ha costado muchos años en recuperar la tierra, ¿ves? Entonces después ya empezaba a creer y a ver, después ya me empezó a hacer los macerados, los caldos, los foliares. Y ahí ahora ya lo manejo sola ya. Incluso hago para la venta también. Vendo abonos, vendo los productos. Tenemos un grupo de mujeres que siempre estamos haciendo abonos. Somos 12 mujeres que emprendemos este trabajo.
Siempre hemos capacitado a grupos mixtos y casi siempre se destacan más las productoras, las mujeres, las agricultoras, porque tienen más sentimiento hacia la tierra. O sea, se apropian más de lo que es el cuidado de la madre tierra, ¿no? Justamente el Consejo Social debe más interactuar con los agricultores. Entonces me gustaría que lo hagan de muchos más y realmente ahí van a palpar la necesidad por la que ellos atraviesan, viviendo su realidad. La cuenca la consideramos nuestra casa, ¿no? Nuestra fuente de vida, donde convivimos tanto los humanos, animales y las plantas, en fin, todos los seres vivos, ¿no? Es nuestra casa común de todos. Añoraría de verla de aquí unos años, que vuelva a ser nuestro hermoso río Dalpir como lo era antes. Obviamente que tal vez no con la misma cantidad, pero por lo menos como un sitio limpio, donde puedan ir nuestros nietos o bisnietos a ver el río, ¿no?